Tragic events have befallen the power couple we believed could withstand anything, leaving fans in shock and the hip-hop community in shock. This was no scene from a movie, a spooky emergency call, flashing red lights, and a hurried ride to the hospital. It was authentic, and in the middle of everything, Remy Ma is dead. Chilly, not responding. The man who has supported her through jail time, scandals, and the harshest industry critics. Papoose was spotted running into the emergency room while crying. According to witnesses, he passed out at the nurse's station while yelling Remy name and pleading with anyone to take action. One source says, he screamed, "Please, please, save her. Don't let her leave in this manner." However, what followed sent shivers down everyone's spine. The emergency room was silent. A gloomy-looking doctor emerged and leaned down to speak the words that nobody, Papoose, least of all, ever thought to hear. "There's no heartbeat." News started to spread like wildfire after those 4 words shook the hospital hallway and the internet. Was Remy Ma's time coming to an end? Had the legendary mother, rapper, and reality TV personality just made her farewell appearance? Supporters flocked to TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, hoping for a miracle. In a matter of minutes, #SaveRemy became popular. Behind closed doors, however, a more sinister reality was emerging, one that was rife with treachery, unspoken adversaries, and a war of silence that Remy Ma had been engaged in long before she ever set foot in that hospital. Why? Shortly after hearing the news, was Papoose spotted arguing with hospital staff. Just hours before the incident, security footage showed 2 enigmatic individuals entering Remy's room. Who were they? And why are members of the family not speaking in public? This is a serious problem that has the potential to ruin families, ruin legacies, and permanently alter reality TV. It is not merely a medical emergency. You will be completely shocked by what you are about to hear, so stay with us. This is not merely a tale of life and death. It's a tale of secrets being revealed, love being put to the test, and a struggle for which Remy Ma might not have been. Ready? The real drama is just getting started, so get ready. There was a flurry of flashing lights, paparazzi lenses, and frantic cries from fans who had hurried to the hospital as soon as the reports started circulating online, creating a chaotic scene outside the emergency department. This time, rumors that Remy Ma would not survive the night were the reason her name was trending all over the world, not a new album or a heated diss track. Her husband, Papoose, trailed closely after, his face pallid and in a panic as paramedics brought Remy into the emergency room, unconscious and surrounded by a sea of medical personnel. "Stay with me, baby," he said, holding her hand as they rolled her down the hallway. "Stay with me, not in this manner." The elevator journey, the abrupt turn into Trauma Bay 3, and the terrifying moment when Papoose was dragged away by personnel were all captured on security film that was later leaked by a hospital insider. Initially resisting, he begged to remain at her side before collapsing onto a chair in the waiting area and holding his head in his hands. Physicians were working feverishly back in the trauma unit. CPR was performed, injections of adrenaline, scanning for emergencies. However, each second seemed to drag on forever. Then came the flatline, the moment that would haunt everyone in attendance. No pulse. News spread quickly. The hospital lobby was crowded within minutes. Family members showed up, some sobbing excessively, others praying out loud. There were no answers, and the atmosphere was heavy with fear. However, there was more going on beneath the medical emergency. Remy had been acting strangely on social media for weeks, and fans started to piece together a narrative. She missed several appearances. 2 tour dates were canceled. Fans were also alarmed by her most recent Instagram live, as she appeared clearly worn out, agitated, and preoccupied. One fan had said, "Remy is acting strangely. She doesn't appear well. Not emotionally, not physically." Details from those close to the family started to surface, creating a far more nuanced picture. Remy allegedly addressed someone close to her, whom she felt had betrayed her. Days prior to the incident, insiders said that the altercation concluded in a yelling match that left Remy in tears and shivering. There came the phone call after that. Listeners were left speechless by a bizarre late-night chat between Remy and an unnamed woman that was recorded on a voicemail leak that came to light just hours after she was admitted to the hospital. Remy may be heard stating, "Tell my son, I tried, if anything happens to me," in the recording. "Tell Papoose that although I've always loved him, I should never have put my trust in her." Who was she referring to? There was a lot of conjecture on the internet. Some thought it was a competitor in the industry. Others blamed a buddy who had recently returned to her life and turned against her. The notion that Remy knew something was coming, however, was what shocked everyone the most. Doctors updated Papoose while he sat in the corridor. Her heartbeat was still weak, but she was being stabilized. For now, she was being kept alive by machines. However, they were unable to make any promises because of her critical condition. Later, a nurse would remark, "He looked broken," as if he had just witnessed the fall of his entire world. Family friends started to show up. In order to avoid cameras, Fat Joe was let in through the back. clearly shaken. After spending 20 minutes with Papoose in a secluded room, he appeared to have aged 10 years. However, the inquiries continued. What caused Remy to pass out so quickly? Was it fatigue? Too much? A secret medical condition? Was it anything darker though? An anonymous nurse made the startling claim that Remy's blood tests revealed traces of a rare toxin, which is far more harmful than recreational drugs. According to reports, she told a tabloid reporter, "This wasn't accidental. This appears to be deliberate, purposeful." Everything changed with that word. All of a sudden, the hospital was a crime scene as well as a haven of recuperation. Then the night's second shock struck. Minutes before Remy's vitals dropped in the middle of the night, two anonymous ladies were seen on security camera entering her hospital room. One had her head down and was wearing a hoodie. The other seemed to be timing something, constantly checking her phone. For precisely 4 minutes and 17 seconds, they were in the room. Neither could be identified when asked. No visitation. Records were kept by staff during that hour. The video abruptly stopped a few moments later. There were a lot of theories. Was it sabotage? Was Remy being silenced by someone? Worst of all, was Papoose the actual target? Detectives on the internet started to piece things together. Remy was said to have been working on a memoir just days prior, a candid, unvarnished account that allegedly contained secrets that could destroy careers. She allegedly possessed recordings, receipts, and proof of everything from personal betrayals within her inner circle to backdoor industry deals. Before it fell, had someone attempted to stop her? Supporters gathered outside the hospital as these theories gained momentum. A few of them carried placards. Others used Bluetooth speakers to play Remy's music. They lit candles. Whispered prayers were said. The woman in the center of it all, however, remained unresponsive throughout. Papoose remained by her side as they went back inside. She was in a medically induced coma. According to the doctors, she had a stressed brain. Her organs were becoming weaker. However, he refused to let go. Every hour, he whispered to her. Narratives of their encounters, recollections of the birth of their daughter, her favorite songs, lyrics, in the hopes of igniting something, anything. He played voice memos of their infant giggling. He informed the staff, "She is a fighter. I know her better than you do. She will succeed." However, there was not much time left. Additionally, the hospital was facing pressure from investigators, the media, and fans. When detectives arrived in the morning, they reviewed badge data and conducted discreet interviews with nurses. There was growing suspicion. Staff at the hospital were asked not to talk to reporters. However, the internet was still flooded with leaks, which fueled the already blazing fire. When Remy's estranged cousin claimed on TikTok that she had gotten a call from Remy 2 nights before to the collapse, a fresh twist was revealed. The cousin remarked, "She sounded scared. She informed me that she believed someone was pursuing her." Claimed that the people she formerly trusted were betraying her, that she no longer felt secure. It was more than a health scare. It served as a warning. The entire world was now holding its breath, waiting to see if Remy Ma would awaken, or if her truth would perish along with her. The mechanical buzz of life support machinery was the only sound in the ICU, as tension pervaded the air and hope and despair silently battled for dominance. Hip-hop queen, mother, survivor, and fighter, Remy Ma was now dead in a hospital bed. Caught in a maelstrom, more sinister than any verse she had ever spit, and the turmoil was just getting worse outside those pristine glass doors. More than just her friends and admirers started to swarm the hospital hallways as word of her illness spread. Reporters, investigators, and even competing groups from the business arrived, all hoping to get a piece of the developing scandal. "Avoid letting them win," he muttered. However, who were they? Because it was now a conspiracy entwined with secrets, treachery, and possibly even attempted murder, rather than merely a sudden medical collapse. With a folder in his hand, Fat Joe returned to the hospital, clearly in more anguish than before. According to rumors, the folder included insurance information, legal paperwork, and one menacing, anonymous, and unsigned letter. Before someone else did, the letter cautioned Remy to stop her reckless mouth. When Joe read it out loud to Papoose, his hands shook. She was aware, Fat Joe remarked somberly. She anticipated this. Another social media frenzy swept the city when a well-known YouTube gossip blogger leaked a purported recording from one of Remy's last studio sessions. Between takes, Remy is heard speaking openly. "They think I'm scared. No boss, no title, and no man frightened me. But now I'm keeping an eye on myself. I'm ready. I'm not paranoid. What are you ready for?" Every live stream trending tag and comment section reiterated that question. Within an hour, #ProtectRemy rose to the top of the popular hashtags. At the same time, the hospital's probe intensified. The lady who attempted to break into Remy's intensive care unit earlier was proven to be Tashira T. Monroe, a former stylist with a fraud history and connections to a controversy involving stolen master recordings from several female rappers. According to surveillance evidence, years had passed since T's disappearance until now. She invoked her right to remain silent by refusing to talk to authorities while she was being held. However, police found that she had a burner phone with encrypted messages on it, many of which mentioned Remy by name. One terrifying text just said, "Tonight," prior to her waking up, that made all of the investigators on the case shiver. Even more unsettling, though only a few hours after T's attempted intrusion, Remy's condition started to worsen once more. Her vitals plunged, and doctors hurried in. Another crash, there were alarms. Medical personnel rushed as Papoose was carried out of the room. One question stood out amid the confusion. Had her phone been tampered with? Administrators at the hospital declined to comment. After the area was cordoned off, forensic teams arrived to inspect each surface, drip line, and syringe in the room. Behind the hospital's walls, a silent conflict had broken out between those attempting to keep Remy safe and those attempting to keep her quiet. In the meantime, investigators looking into Remy's online activities discovered something startling. Behind a fake panel was a safe disk that had previously been concealed inside her home studio setup. What's inside? Numerous important music executives are allegedly linked to payola schemes, coerced contracts, and even violent threats in dozens of private audio files, video recordings, and court records. Receipts were what Remy had been gathering. In one video clip, Remy and an unidentified man engaged in a furious altercation. The man's voice was later assumed to be that of a prominent rap entrepreneur. Remy yells in the video, "I'm not signing nothing. Do you believe I'm afraid of you? Feel free to give me a try." 4 days prior to her hospitalization, the file was timestamped. It was obvious by now that this was a takedown rather than a medical emergency. Tensions erupted into full-blown paranoia at the hospital. According to reports, Papoose requested a private security detail. Biometric verification was now required for all visitors, including family members, after one of Remy's cousins was spotted taking pictures of her unconscious in bed. He prevented 2 of them from entering and issued a media blackout request. He said to a nurse, "We're not sure who to trust. It's possible that even her own blood is attempting to profit." A judge had temporarily protected Remy's intellectual property, preventing any publishing of her memoir or related information unless approved by her legal team. According to a court order that morning that journalists learned about behind closed doors. Why? Because an internet chapter leak attempt had already been made. A well-known ghostwriter who had had a brief collaboration with Remy was identified as the source of the leak. Reporters were informed by this now hidden individual that Remy was about to set the world on fire. Names, contracts, emails, voice, notes, everything was in that book. She was also aware that others would attempt to stop her, and they appeared to be doing well. Because Remy's body deteriorated with each day, and her brain activity fluctuated between unstable and almost flatline. However, the most significant turn occurred while the city was sleeping. 3:17 a.m. A confidential tip line, set up by cops, received an encrypted message. "Check her phone, the real one," was the only statement in the message. The decoy. No. Papoose gave over the real gadget Remy had been using covertly after being startled, awake by the knock on his makeshift medical mattress. Investigators discovered a locked journal app concealed behind layers of phony folders, and when the contents were decrypted, they were explosive. Everything had been recorded by Remy. Encounters with dubious executives. Her daughter was threatened. 1. Entry claimed that she had been the target of eavesdropping by someone extremely close to her. The most unsettling entry. Though Papoose is beginning to suspect something, in my opinion, I can't tell him just yet, not until I'm certain. However, I could lose him permanently if he discovers what I've been concealing. What did she have to conceal from Papoose 2 weeks prior to her collapse? This entry suggested a profound betrayal. Debate broke out among fans. Was Remy cheating? Was she secretly participating in a deal? Or did she shield him from something more sinister? New names surfaced as part 2 of this bizarre story developed. Remy tried to play both sides, wrote Corey Nix, an unhappy former label representative, in a mysterious post on X, previously Twitter. The game is now reversed. Don't wait. Karma. The post was screenshotted and shared thousands of times before being removed in a matter of minutes. Soon later, Corey's profile was taken off. Some said he had gone underground, while others said he had been arrested. In any case, his message gave the story another terrifying dimension. Remy Ma wasn't only a helpless victim. Something larger was engulfing her. Something that was suddenly going in directions she could not control. Investigators made a public appeal for anyone with knowledge of the poisoning or Remy's most recent actions to come forward. A hotline was established. Within 48 hours, more than 150 suggestions were received. One voice stood out, though amidst the cacophony. Jasmine E. is a woman. Appeared in a live stream that was seen by more than 2 million people. She was a backing vocalist who had previously performed with Remy and Papoose. Remy told me last month that she felt like a walking target. She disclosed through tears. "I have things on people that would kill them," she added. Then she begged, "If anything ever happens to me, don't let them bury the truth with me." Fans were now praying that her narrative would be revealed before it was buried 6 feet beneath. Not only that she would live, outside the hospital, the atmosphere turned electric. Overnight, fans set up camp. Candles and posters with the words "Justice for Remy" were distributed by vigil organizers. In order to help pay for her legal battles, influencers started fundraisers. And even rival artists took to social media to demand that hip-hop whistleblowers be protected. And Remy Ma said nothing in the middle of it all. Her coma got worse. The following 48 hours would be crucial. Doctors cautioned Papoose. However, Papoose was unconcerned about forecasts or figures. "You ain't done," he muttered, holding her hand tighter than before. Not in this manner. Not when everyone is finally paying attention. The clatter of badges and high heels, as well as whispered secrets, now filled the hospital hallways. It had turned into a battlefield, not only for Remy's life, but also for the truth she fought to expose. Additionally, monitors in Remy's room started to surge in the last few seconds before day 5 dawned. There was a spark of change in her once flat and irregular pulse. Physicians hurried in. Papoose got to his feet, and the remainder of Remy Ma's memoir was sitting there, waiting. On a cloud server hidden behind 5 firewalls, Papoose was awake. Even when hospital staff offered him a private room to rest, he refused to leave the hallway outside Remy Ma's intensive care unit suite. With his gaze fixed on the door, he muttered, "This is my place. She must be aware of my proximity." However, a group of physicians appeared with faces that spoke for themselves as the gray hospital windows attempted to let in morning sunlight. A clipboard was in one's hand. A second hand lightly touched Papoose's shoulder. They stated it even, though he didn't want to hear it. "Her organs are starting to fail. We will need to talk about the next course of action if no response is received within the next 24 hours. Next actions." Whatever strength Papoose still had was broken by that sentence. He sobbed furiously, clutching the wall as his knees gave way. Nurses hurried to his aid, but he resisted them. His screams were raw, terrible howls that shut down the waiting area and reverberated down the corridor. The incident was captured, on camera, by a neighboring employee. It was up on the internet within an hour. Doctors give up on Remy Ma. Papoose breaks down in tears. The video immediately went viral, sparking a wave of outrage, sympathy, and conspiracy theories. Supporters pleaded for more information. Celebrities made tribute posts. "Remy is a warrior," Cardi B wrote in a tweet. "She will succeed. Up in prayer." Despite their troubled history, Nicki Minaj even posted a mysterious prayer emoji. However, when the tributes poured in, a much more unsettling revelation emerged. Remy's hospitalization may never have been an accident, according to a scathing report written by an investigative journalist that included documents and audio clips. According to the report, Remy's early career was closely associated with a powerful entertainment executive who is currently being investigated by the federal government for bribery, racketeering, and witness intimidation. Just weeks prior to her collapse, Remy Ma had been subpoenaed to testify. The article said, "Everything changed because of that detail. When Papoose found out, he insisted on talking to detectives. 'Why did I not know she was being pulled into this?' he shouted. 'Who is keeping her safe?' The tension was simmering behind closed doors, but law enforcement officials stayed silent. If Remy had meant to testify, if she had been planning to expose names, dates, accounts, then her hospitalization may be part of a much wider cover-up. The nighttime security officer then came forward with fresh video. The night of the initial attack, surveillance footage showed another suspicious person wheeling a medical cart and wearing a stolen EMT jacket entering the hospital's east stairwell. They were not questioned. Until now, no one was aware that they weren't employees. The video stopped when the face was clearly seen. The remainder was done using the internet. The mystery guy was recognized by Reddit users as Devin Roscoe, a well-known associate of a dubious public relations fixer who has been connected to several high-profile controversies over the years. According to court documents that were leaked, he had previously worked for a notorious management company that specialized in discreet cleanups. Devin was now running. They had issued a warrant. There was the FBI. During the night, Remy's room was under federal surveillance. Officially, a national criminal inquiry had been launched into the situation. She hadn't opened her eyes yet. Unwilling to leave her side, Papoose started filming films to play next to her hospital bed. He collected videos of loved ones, friends, and even fans sending heartfelt and uplifting words. In one, Fat Joe showed up and said, "Come back, sis. The world ain't ready to lose you." But the voice of Remy's daughter was what made me cry. A tremulous, gentle sound looped, "Mommy, wake up. You are missed." Her pulse briefly increased, according to the nurses, and for the first time in 4 days, a flicker of optimism returned. The pressure was still growing. Dozens of people from Remy's past were being subpoenaed as the FBI began their investigation. They leaked emails. One chain turned up a 6-month-old exchange between Remy and a reporter. Remy alluded to explosive information in it that was connected to a string of hush money agreements in the music industry. The last line of her final communication to the reporter, however, was what went viral. "If I go down, I'm taking everyone with me. I have everything backed up. They are aware that I do." Suddenly, this was about more than simply Remy Ma's health. Fans created the trending hashtag Remy knows everything. It has to do with a hidden fact, an industry that would kill to keep it quiet. Even more horrifying was the fact that someone inside had unlawfully accessed Remy's hospital paperwork. An internal review was started by the hospital. 2 nurses were placed on leave. 1 physician quit in silence. They all made no statements. Rumors circulated. Were they compensated? Did they participate in the cover-up? Papoose, meanwhile, started yelling names in public. He accused a number of executives, managers, and even artists of being involved in Remy's demise in a scathing live stream that received over 3 million views in just 2 hours. They are aware of who they are. "Do you believe I'm afraid? I will destroy the entire industry before I allow you to bury my wife." After footage were saved, reposted, and examined by web investigators, the live stream was instantly subject to copyright strikes and takedowns. Remy opened her eyes just when it seems that the fire could not be much hotter. Indeed, she woke up after 5 days in a coma, with medical professionals ready to end her life. Feeble, confused, but still living, Papoose fell again, but this time he was relieved. Tears were running down his cheeks as he held her hand. "You returned," he cried. "You returned. Really?" Remy mouthed a single word, but she was still unable to speak. "Call." She was permitted to compose a note by the doctors. Her initial remarks, "Don't trust anyone in this building. They're observing." The FBI took complete control of her protection in a matter of minutes. At the hospital, an armored truck pulled up. There were armed guards in her room. Officially, Remy was protected as a witness. Now her testimony was crucial to the mission, and the industry trembled when word got out that she had survived. For what if Remy Ma lived? The secrets she held. They were going to blast everything away. Conclusion and call to action. More than 300 words, the hospital walls, which had previously reverberated with hopelessness, now hummed with stress and urgency. Not only was Remy Ma's survival a miracle, but it also posed a threat to all of the carefully crafted lies that had been spread over the years in the music industry's shadows. Her memoirs, rumors, the evidence she gathered, and the betrayal she experienced all suggested a far bigger conspiracy that had been allowed to continue unchecked for far too long. One thing is certain now, as she recuperates under the supervision of federal agents, Remy Ma is far from finished. This story isn't either. When she gets stronger, what secrets will she divulge? That were the individuals that wished to silence her. What's concealed in the video that disappeared right before she passed out? The most terrifying question of all is probably whether they will try to stop her again if they were unable to do it the first time. For the time being, supporters are still coming together from all around the world. There are a ton of theories, prayers, and fresh calls for justice on social media. However, behind closed doors, influential individuals are rushing but Remy Ma returned from the edge. She is also no longer keeping quiet. Fans, celebrities, and industry insiders were all shaken by the news that Remy Ma had woken up from her coma. The queen of Bronx rap had finally opened her eyes after weeks of doubt, heartache, and hushed plots. However, what ought to have been a happy moment descended into a whirlwind of confusion, mayhem, and fresh information for which nobody was prepared. As she blinked into consciousness, nurses and doctors hurried to her bedside. In sharp contrast to the mounting emotional intensity in the room, the monitors beeped continuously. The first person to be by her side was Papoose, who sobbed and held her hand like a lifeline. Fans reposted the picture of his shaking fingers around hers, with captions like "Real love never dies" and "The king waited for his queen to return." However, beneath the touching reunion was a more sinister reality that Remy was clinging to. One that, when no one else was around, she would only whisper to Papoose. Remy's initial comments were laced with anxiety and hurry, rather than love or thankfulness. "Pap, they attempted to murder me. It was a setup, not just a fight." Papoose froze. The room lost some of its warmth. He bent in with trepidation. She looked around, the heart monitor accelerating. Who did this to you?" Clarissa wasn't by herself, and I believe Mona was aware of it. The ramifications were devastating. Remy's comeback was a declaration as much as a recovery. The match was far from over. A new level had just been reached. Remy's hospital room became a heavily secured area in a matter of hours, not only by medical professionals, private security as well. Pap had no intention of taking any chances. Social media exploded in the meantime. Timelines were dominated by hashtags such as #RemyReturns, #RemyVsDenestry, and #JusticeForRemy. Fan theories erupted. Was this an overthought Mona Scott production? Was Clarissa Shields acting by herself? And why, only hours before Remy woke up, was Yandy Smith seen going inside the hospital's executive wing. The internet went into a frenzy about what happened next. According to a leaked nurse's memo, days before Remy woke up, a disguised person had paid her an unofficial visit in the intensive care unit. No medical records, no permission. A figure entering through the back is depicted in a blurry security shot. Who was this individual? And why would they want a Remy Ma that was unconscious? The video investigators went to work. Shadows were examined and frames were improved. In a 20-minute expose, well-known YouTuber with more than 3 million subscribers claimed the figure looked exactly like R.A. Ali, Remy's longtime rival and rumored competitor for a covert hosting position on an upcoming love and hip-hop spin-off. However, why would R.A. jeopardize all to enter a hospital covertly? An unnamed insider who claimed to be a member of Remy's inner circle said that Remy had been sitting on a cache of receipts, including signed contracts, audio clips, and video that could destroy a number of careers. Days prior to her altercation with Claressa, this vault had vanished. The insider also claims that R.A. might have been sent to destroy it or retrieve it. Pap had heard enough by now. In less than a day, the video received 8 million views when he posted a terrifying statement on Instagram Live. They tried to bury my wife, but she's still standing. And we're coming for everybody who had a hand in this. Officially, the public was involved. News outlets carried it. Celebrities began to take sides. Cardi B wrote on Twitter, "Remy always been real, and real ones don't go down like that." However, as supporters came together, the adversaries redoubled their efforts. The fire was only stoked by Mona Scott's well-crafted statement, in which she denied any involvement and said, "We love and respect Remy Ma. Any allegations suggesting otherwise are completely false and defamatory." In a matter of days, a confidential, documented internal memo from Love and Hip Hop's production crew outlining backup plans. In the event of a medical emergency or major scandal involving Remy Ma, the date, a day prior to the Claressa battle, it wasn't a coincidence anymore. With a mysterious Instagram story, Yandy, who had been largely quiet, finally spoke. For simple words, truth always finds light. Conjecture was rife. Was Yandy hinting at something? Or was she alerting someone? Recovering more quickly than anyone anticipated, Remy asked to speak in public, not via a news source. Though she went with Instagram Live, and almost 500,000 people watched, she had a powerful yet worn-out appearance. Her voice was a little hoarse. However, what was her message? As sharp as ever, "I didn't come back to play nice. I didn't almost die to stay silent. I know what was done, I know who did it. And I promise you this ain't over." The responses erupted. The discussion was packed with fans, bloggers, and even other celebrities. Then, in the last turn of events, Remy raised a USB stick. She didn't specify what was on it, but she did say, "This holds the proof. Everything I couldn't say before. You'll see it soon."